morning's meeting of the Southfield City Council conducted a committee of the whole for Monday, July 29th, 2013 to order. And Ms. Banks, if you'll call the roll.
Thank you. Ms. Seymour? Here. Mr. Moss?
Here.
Mr. Land?
Here.
Mr. Frazier?
Here.
Mr. Burkiak? Here. Ms. Jordan? Here. Mr. Cyber?
Here.
You have 7 members present.
We're convening for this committee the whole meeting at the request of the mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point I'll turn it over to Ms. Lawrence.
Members of the council, as we lived through the death of a very long-term employee of ours, our city attorney, we have been tasked with the job of appointing a new city attorney. I just want to give a brief description of the city attorney. The city attorney is appointed by the mayor with the approval of the city council, and upon appointment, the city attorney's contract and duties are aligned with the city council. This is a contractual position. Wages and benefits will be in keeping with those of the city management team. The city attorney is responsible for the proper administration of legal affairs of the city. The city attorney provides legal advice and counsel to the mayor, city council, and other city's official boards, commissions, and agencies on all matters related to the duties and the business of the city. In addition, the city attorney directs the prosecution of criminal, traffic, and civic ordinance infractions. It represents the city in all legal actions, prepares or reviews all ordinances, regulations, contracts, and bonds, attends all meetings of the city council, directs and manages the legal department, professional, technical, and administrative support staff, prepares and administrates the department's budget. The city attorney is also responsible for making decisions on matters of significant complexity, which can result in serious financial consequences for the city or involving the welfare of lives and property. The job requirements of the city attorney: they must possess a Juris Doctor degree, be a member of the Michigan State Bar, a minimum of 10 years increasingly responsible municipal law experience, significant to produce expertise in multiple areas encompassing real estate transactions, zoning, federal and state regulatory compliance, risk management, municipal financing operation, intergovernment relations, employment law and labor relations, and prosecution management. They must obtain or have superior written and verbal communication skills, tact, judgment, ethical standards, significant to efficiently counsel, advise, persuade, and inform others regarding all matters relating or affecting the city. This person will be under close scrutiny of the public, the press, political interests, courts, and other agencies of the law. A valid driver's license and a good driving record according to, I haven't checked that, so you're going to have to produce that. According to the City of Southfield's driving standards, have no felony or serious misdemeanor convictions as an adult. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the description of what we want for a city attorney. And I have presented to you a letter. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, as you're aware, the position of city attorney has been vacant since January the 7th, 2013. The position of city attorney is a key position in our organization responsible for providing advice and counsel to this honorable body, the mayor and other elected officials and city staff, directing the functions of the city attorney's office. I think it's significant to note that during the long-term illness of Mr. Barrett, in his absence, these critical functions have been performed by our deputy city attorney, Sue Ward-Witkowski. I'm confident that you agree with me that Ms. Ward-Witkowski has performed these duties in an excellent manner and has demonstrated all the skills and abilities required of this demanding position. Pursuant to the city charter, section 5.5B, it is the duty of the mayor to appoint a city attorney with the approval of the city council. Despite the city hiring freeze, it is essential that these vital functions be performed in order to protect the good order of the city and the welfare of our citizens. I am therefore pleased to present to you my selection of Susan Ward-Witkowski as city attorney and ask that you approve this appointment effective immediately. Ms. Ward's appointment will be pursuant to an employment agreement which she has signed, setting her salary at $131,000 with other terms and benefits as outlined in the attached correspondence. I have conferred with our city administrator and determined that this position is budgeted and that funds are provided for this appointment. There's a recommended resolution that I would ask be voted on tonight at the upcoming meeting. A couple of things before I turn it over to you, the council. You should have a copy of her resume in your package. And I quoted the charter, and the charter section 6.2 verifies and outlines what the duties and responsibilities are. Also, a description that we have locally, the city attorney appointed by the mayor, in addition to attending our meeting and serving as an advisor, the city attorney has an appointed staff of assistant attorneys who are employed in various supporting functions, such as prosecuting criminal charges, civil traffic infractions, and other issues that are brought under our city ordinances, conducting legal research, responding to citizens' inquiries and complaints, drafting ordinances, reviewing contracts, and attending various boards and commission meetings. With that being said, and the responsibility and the need that we have, I ask at this time, based on the resolution, that I present this to you and open it up for any discussion. Mr. Chair.
Do you have mic? You don't have mic.
No, we don't take the corner.
Okay. I read the letter, and I have a couple of suggestions. Ms. Ward-Witkowski has been serving during the duties of the city attorney since January 8th, well, actually for the past year and a half, since Mr. Barrett was absent so it's been a year and a half that she's been performing this position. I would like to suggest that it would be appropriate that the position, the salary, $131,000, be retroactive to January 8th, when the day after Mr. Barrett passed away, since she's been doing this job, as I say, for a year and a half. And also that after 6 months that she gets the same, be eligible for the same 5% increase that all exempt employees get after serving 6 months in the position, so that the position officially starts tonight, and 6 months that she would be eligible for that 5% increase, as all other exempt employees are.
Is there anybody else who'd like to answer that?
I would support that.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
During drafting this agreement, there was lengthy discussion between myself and Ms. Ward. And if you read the agreement, you'll see that there is a lump sum of $5,000 that will be awarded to Ms. Witkowski upon her confirmation. And that's in recognition of her dual role that she had assumed in the absence of the prior city attorney. And that amount equates to giving her retroactive pay during that period. And that is signed out, that is outlined in her contract. In addition to that, there was an initial presentation to Ms. Witkowski to have a 6-month probation period. She and I discussed it, and we came to an agreement based on her performance in the last year and a half. That would be, to me, not a necessary thing. She has proven that she can do the job. And that it is the council is responsible to review and to offer increases in salary. And if you will just really recognize that Jack Barrett was the city attorney for 26 years. And during that 26 years, he reached the point of $137,000. And as this council has the responsibility and the ability to increase the salary of the city attorney, that it was agreed upon that the amount that was offered with the $5,000 payment based on at the time of appointment was something that she agreed to. And in talking with HR and the discussion between Ms. Ward and I, it was agreed that that was agreed upon.
Yes, Ms. Seymour.
Didn't we give the acting people, and I guess this is really to Jim Charette, the acting, when people got acting positions in several departments, didn't they get a $5,000 increase or not? They got some kind of a bump.
They did get a bump, it wasn't necessarily $5,000.
So was it varied?
Yes.
Okay. I just think that that she should be.
And she was the deputy, and we have to recognize that under her contract, we increased her to the position of deputy to increase her pay during that time.
We've always had a deputy. We've always had
No, we didn't.
As far as I can remember, we always had a deputy city attorney.
We created or promoted her to deputy. We didn't have one under Jack, and Jack asked for it during that period because of his extended illness. And we appointed her.
I just want to make sure that she's going to be recognized for what she's done, and we may have had an agreement, but that's my opinion, and I think that's appropriate to make sure that she's properly awarded. And, you know, she's not going to complain, but I think we owe her more than that. I think it's an obligation for all that she's done, doing 2 jobs. Nobody has to do that kind of effort, and she's done that for basically a year and a half. I don't think it's adequate, but that's my opinion.
Is there anyone else that would like to comment? Ms. Jordan?
So the difference, if we go retro back to January, you said the difference is only $5,000.
Yes, the $5,000 was acceptable amount. We did some calculations based on that, and the 131 was based on her getting additional bump after 6 months, and she and I both agreed that was not necessary. She is well proven herself, and 6 months probation just did not seem appropriate in this situation.
To the chair, too, Mr. Barrett went out on leave at
Well, he went on a couple of leaves.
with the last
one he left in December of 2011.
7, and you have performing your duties since that time.
As well as her own.
Yeah. Once he lost the last time, then Martin, he did not come back now.
When did we change the status to deputy? Do you know when we had that?
That would have been in, that was when he first went out in 2008, and then when he came back in like May or June of 2009, estimate for 2009.
Your title was, Mrs. Assistant.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was increase in payers and
You know, I tend to believe that, I'm thankful that you're bringing it to our attention at this point and making the recommendation. But I am concerned that the lump sum does seem a little bit small for the duties that you've incurred basically since 2011. I would like to see that possibly bumped up.
I didn't hear that.
I would like to see the $5,000 increase since the duties have been performed since basically December 2011. And that's just my opinion. I agree with that.
Mr. Frazier?
Let me ask you a question. Is $131,000 what she was paid prior to tonight, or prior to this, or did she get a bump to bring her up to $131,000 plus the $5,000? And the bump is just recent?
Lori, I don't recall what her salary was.
115.
115, so we increased the salary from 115 to 131.
115 to 131.
Plus 5,000.
Right.
It's 21,000. I think it's pretty generous. I could live with it.
Mr. Lance and Mr. Perkowski?
Yes, I believe that we should increase $5,000, because she is a highly professional, and she did very, very well in the company. She is a top attorney that I know. She is a top attorney. I think she's entitled to more than $5,000.
Yeah, it's hard to just throw numbers on the table, and we try to negotiate or change what has been brought before us. If it's to be changed in any way, I would think that, I guess I have to ask the question, who negotiated this request? Mayor?
It was Susan, currently our deputy city attorney, who I was offering the position to, and myself.
Was Mr. Charette involved in that?
No. Yes, she was.
I didn't hear your question.
Lori Siskin was involved with that,
Yes,
but I
she
don't
was.
think it's appropriate.
How does this equate to the city administrator's contract? The two used to run parallel.
Right.
Mr. Frazier can help me out with that. They used to run parallel.
Pretty close, but I think the city administrator makes a little bit more.
Yeah. Mr. Charette, did you review this contract at all? No.
I'm aware of it, but I didn't review it in detail.
I just, I brought Mr. Barris's appointment agreement, one of the older ones, and with me, and usually the agreement is parallel to the administrators, and I don't have that. This is just, I asked Sue this before. This is just kind of rough. We're not voting on this in particular tonight. We're actually have I hope a more involved contract than this, don't we? Sue, is this
Well,
it?
this was the offer. I assume that it would be put into an employment agreement.
Yes,
I think
that's what I'm saying.
but I think the resolution tonight authorizes, or would authorize the mayor clerk to sign the employment agreement.
Yeah, right. And that, and I think that, that's what this is, the employment agreement that Mr. Barris had.
Right.
And recall, that there's, I don't want to slide Sue.
I don't either.
And so, you know, I'm not saying that the city attorney should make what the city administrator makes, but I think all the, other things that go along with it should be included, in it. And so, let me tell you, what is the procedure gonna be? Are we gonna get the employment agreement back to this body?
I can't answer that.
Mr. Strick? Who?
Hi, Lori, the
Lori?
normal process.
The normal process would be that the council would be given information about the terms of the employment agreement. I don't believe that in the past that the body actually had this ahead of time to vote on it. So, did you,
What?
the actual employment agreement?
This is the
before you?
employment
We did.
agreement.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely we did.
So, I mean, I think the intention of the letter, the offer letter, was to
What I'm
show you
getting
what
at
the
is I
terms
do
were.
not want, Ms. Ward's slighted in any way. I mean, we all know what she did and all the difficulty on and off, too short-staffed besides, and I think that I want to just be sure that we have all those other things that go along in the employment agreement, you know, not just out.
If I may.
Just because I want them parallel.
Ms. Ward and I actually used Jack Barris's contract as a model when we were negotiating, and we actually looked at what services, what benefits were given. We discussed her benefits, which Jack had some, that she wanted something different, and so there were some changes made based on her desire for benefits. So what you're referencing, that did happen in discussion, and we brought Lori in on that as well when it came to the benefits. I will tell the council, as you know, this is for you to approve my offer of employment to Ms. Witkowski, but you have the right as council to increase her pay at any time. However, she agreed upon this, and if you want to bring it back with some recommendations from Lori to increase it, I mean, it's purely your right. But this is something she and I sat down on more than one occasion, discussed the benefits, discussed the salary, and she expressed her content with the terms of it. So if the council wants to do more, that's your right, but and we did use Jack Barris's contract as the model. We went line by line.
Well, I'm not trying to renegotiate the contract. What I'm trying to do is have the contract parallel in fringe benefits and whatever goes into the
And I can tell you that
administrator, and that may be into the agreement that Sue has. As to the amount, you know, I think everybody here knows all the work that she has done, and I don't know how she stayed. Really, I mean, things really got hairy there for a long time. And anyways, I'm all for this, and if anything should be different in the employment agreement or the amounts, I would like to have the opportunity to increase at that time.
Ms. Seymour and then Mr. Lamb.
And I don't want to renegotiate a contract.
I would agree with you.
I have no problem with the contract. I think the contract, by and large, apart from some of these dollar amounts, I think the contract is fine. The difference with Mr. Barris is he was in the deferred comp program. That's the main difference, I believe. He wasn't in our pension plan. But what jumped off the page at me when I read this was, in addition upon, this is Article 2, in addition upon confirmation, you will be paid a one-time lump sum of $5,000 in recognition of the dual role you have assumed in the absence of the prior city attorney, which was more than a year and a half. more than that, plus the time before that year that he was off when he was absent. So that just seems like a very, almost insulting, you know, in addition to everything you've done, you're gonna get a lump sum of $5,000. That disturbs me. That just seems, I don't even think of the
Well, I'm
word.
hearing, several voices that have a question about the fairness of the $5,000. So if we could isolate that perhaps from the contract itself, are we, as majority here, are all, is the council supportive of the contract itself? I think I'm pretty certain everybody's, very comfortable with the appointment. So we're just down to this one point. That's what I'm hearing. So I have Mr. Lance and Mr. Moss.
Can I ask another
Oh, I'm
question
sorry.
before I, like, just, it's not clear to me about the after 6 months 5% increase, which all, even though she's proven herself, all exempt employees get that once they move into a position. They get that 5% increase after 6 months.
They're eligible for it.
They're eligible for it, thank you. That's what I mean, they're eligible for that. So why wouldn't we want to, it's not clear to me why we don't want to include that as part of this. Someone commented on that, but it didn't make sense
All right.
to me.
Well, let's get to the other folks that have to speak.
Okay.
Mr. Lance?
Yes, I think, what are we waiting for? It's a simple decision to make.
Well, I think we're trying to get to a point, we've narrowed it down to, we're good with the appointment, we're good with the contract.
Yes, and
What we're still discussing is the, I'll call it a stipend, for lack of a better word, a stipend for the dual role she played for 18 months.
yes, I know, I understand that, so.
All right, that's where we're at.
All right,
So
so I
a couple
believe it
people
should
want to
be-
speak yet, so let me,
Okay, I'm not through yet.
oh, okay.
I believe it should be increased, as Dawn suggested. She's entitled to it, we know she's one of the best. Why wait? Why wait? Can't make a decision on a couple of $1,000 more or something?
All right. Mr. Moss?
Yeah, you know, there's no doubt that everyone on this council is a champion for this appointment, is a champion for Ms. Ward, but I'm most certain that the mayor is a champion for this appointment as well, because she's the one who made it. So, not having sat in on a room with Ms. Ward and Mayor Lawrence, I'm sure the mayor and Sue, you know, came together at the best offer possible, and both of them probably walked out comfortable. I'm sure Sue articulated what she thought was fair given the duality of the roles that she played, and I'm sure the mayor was more than fair to want to make sure that she had offered a fair contract. So I'm comfortable with the recommended resolution. With that said, I will not be a roadblock should the rest of the council feel to go beyond that because of the fact that she played this integral part in keeping the department together. But I'm prepared to support the recommended resolution as it is.
Mr. Fraser, I thought I said your name.
Yeah. I think we're trying to solve two problems at the same time. And the one problem that has not been on the table yet is, regardless of how much we pay her, the work is still there. If we doubled her salary, she still has two people's work to do. And I had the same problem come up one time when I was actively employed. I had two employees. One had about twice as much work as the other one, but they were being paid the same because that's the way the negotiations went. And I went to the labor relations and I said, you know, one of my people is working twice as hard as the other one. I think they ought to get a raise. And I was told, giving them more money doesn't make their job any easier. Maybe you need two people. And that's what I'm saying is, the real relief comes not by paying Sue more than was negotiated, but by giving her some assistance to take some of the load off so that she can do the job that I hope that we all vote for. She can do well. So, again, I will say the same thing as Mr. Moss is. I'm prepared to support what was brought forth tonight, but I won't be a roadblock here.
I want to interject here. I was not privy to the negotiations. I assumed, as chair, I assumed that the whole council would be supportive of this because all of you have indicated things to me in the past of your confidence in this ward. So the other half of the discussion tonight, Mr. Fraser, was I'm hoping that this council will agree to allow, to give the direction to the city attorney or the city administrator to fill the vacant position in the department. We're down to one attorney. And your point is well taken. She cannot do it alone, no matter how much you pay her or what title you give her.
Right.
The job is too big. And we've lost two very capable people in the department. She's juggled it all on her own, especially now that Beth left. So I'm hoping that we can have that discussion before 7 o'clock. As well, an authorization for the administrator to go through regular channels, posting a position of deputy city attorney. But mayor's next, and then I think Mr. Lance.
I just want to echo that. In discussions with Ms. Ward, we talked about her staffing. And we talked about, you know, her strengths, the normal conversations you have when you're offering employment. And, you know, my concern is succession planning. She's only human. She's entitled to a vacation. And right now, she's down to one attorney. And so I did have conversations with, because there was the opportunity to post this outside of the city and to get applicants to apply for this. And I looked holistically at what would happen if we did not hire another person. You cannot continue to dot all our I's legally and cross the T's unless we were willing to contract out our legal services. And Sue and I talked about that. Sue looked at it, and she and I had some really in-depth conversations about that. And at the end of the day, we agreed that our internal legal department is something that serves our city well, and something she was willing to, as the city administrator, continue to administer.
As well, I would add.
And so after our discussion, I went to Jim and talked to Jim about, you know, I had an interest in appointing Sue to this position, and she, you know, it has to be that there's some support coming, and I talked to you about that as well, Council President, that this has to be a ripple effect, and that we need someone to come in and to start. She needs a deputy, and she needs someone that has that municipal experience that can support her, and that is succession planning. And so that discussion was part of our negotiation. It was part of my decision to continue to support her leadership she's had in the city, and the confidence that the council has in her.
Mr. Lance, and then I'd like to go around the table and with perhaps a compromise.
You answered correctly what I have said.
Okay.
She deserves more for her duties today than past, and we should recognize that. I don't think $5,000 is enough, and we can afford to increase it. We could, and I think that would be the right step.
Okay. What I was going to suggest is that, and I've just gotten a note from the city attorney who are on the same page, is suggesting a $10,000 stipend instead of a $5,000 in recognition of a year and a half of service, double duty service. Okay.
Right, I'll follow that.
Could I just make sure, I did not give you that note.
You're still a deputy, maybe you can't ruin it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I see the attorney on the mind. This is Charrette's hand
That's
break.
right.
Okay?
That's right.
I think we need a little levity anyhow. No, Mr. Charette, excuse me. So, Mr. Percassi, would you be in agreement to a $10,000 stipend?
But, yeah, that's on the table. I was just gonna ask, what does Sue presently make?
115.
Okay. And the only thing I was saying, I'm not trying to put this thing off whack, but you know, when you negotiate with the other departments, that are unionized, you go back to time that you started, you know, and you know, there's been a $15,000 difference all the time she's been serving. I mean, I don't know how you arrive at 10, and I'm trying to bump her out of existence. But I'm just trying to say, you usually go back at least to a certain date, which makes sense, as opposed to, I mean, you can't put a number on what she did while Jack was gone. It's impossible. But you sometimes can go and move it back to a time certain, which makes sense to me, if you move it back to, even if you go back a month, you know, whatever it is, you go back to a time certain as opposed to, because when you say, it really bothered me when I read this, because in addition upon confirmation, you'll be paid a one lump sum in recognition of the dual role. Well, that really is slighting a person when you don't have kind of money for all the things that she's done during that interim. So I just personally feel that you go back to a date certain, and whatever that is what you do. But I will go along with anything council is for, but I think you should at least go back 1 month to a date certain.
That wouldn't matter.
I don't understand what you're trying to say.
I don't think it's
What?
Retroactive. Start the salary at 131, retroactive.
Yeah, I do too, I do too.
Go ahead, let's take a commission.
All right, well,
Retroactive.
I mean, I just don't like the point where I'm giving a bulk amount. I like to have some.
I don't
It's
know.
arbitrary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's what I suggested, that we did retroactive.
Yeah, go ahead.
wait a minute.
I just want to say one thing. In terms of how far back of a lump sum you go, I think that's certainly up to council and whatever dollar amount you come up with. The idea, though, of making the salary retro to a date where Jack was still here and you have an overlap, I wouldn't want it to look like we were paying two people to be city attorney at the same time. So that would be my only point in terms of the
Well, I was just
retro.
talking about 1
You know,
month,
Yeah,
I think your
the one-
point is very well taken, Don,
whatever
we're trying to
that month
arrive
is.
at, I think it gets messy if we go back and, Jack was on the payroll through January. I think it's just cleaner to do it this way personally, my opinion, but I am gonna go around the room where we're talking about a $10,000 stipend.
I figured it's how I sort of approximated this, is I've got to respect this process too.
Right.
But, mayor's,
Can't hear you, Jim.
I've got to respect this process too. So, you know, I wanted to, I offered anything, I wanted to be reasonable and have some logic to it, and also take into account the economics that we're in and everything. So I tried to come up with this, and what I did is I went back to January of 2013, and I figured roughly 7/12 of the difference between the salary of the city attorney at that time versus what we're paying the deputy. And then rather than 7/12, I have to, it's about 20,000. I took half. It's not pure science,
So,
but
let's go around on the amount, the 10,000. Are you comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable with it, yes, but.
Yes.
I think that's more appropriate, the 10,000, but I still think we should be retroactive for some part of this year on the salary.
Mr. Mott,
Yeah, following our city administrator's logic makes sense to me, yeah.
Mr. Frazier.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it, but it's also comforting to know that She did some hard-nosed negotiations, and my comfort is that she was even cheap to herself, so.
Yes, she was. Yes, she was.
Now, everybody's trying to take everything into account, it's not easy.
That's right.
Economics and situation.
Absolutely.
That's why I rounded it down the
That's right.
every way, but I think it's closer.
It's pretty,
Closer.
to me, we have to set the standard for all the negotiations that are coming in. If we're too liberal at the top, it's gonna come back to bite us when we start negotiating with.
And I think the
very soon.
board really appreciates that point.
Yes, sure.
Ms. Jordan?
I would say yes, and I think we should authorize our city administrator to move forward. We don't need the executive.
All right, so we have a consensus on the adjustment, stipend? A lump sum, okay. Then, we will be, this item will come back at our 7 o'clock meeting under the mayor's portion. However, in deference to Sue and her family that will be here, I'm going to ask that we move this up on the agenda to after our presentation this evening. That's all right with everyone. And then I would like to move on to the deputy, getting a consensus on posting for a second position in the legal department.
Can we do that now?
Yes.
Before I sit down, I just want to say thank you, council, for approving the recommendation. I'm very excited about Sue continuing in that, so thank you.
All right, so the President Pro Tem and the Council President both suggested that we direct the city administration to post for a second municipal attorney. And is there agreement, Mr.
Are you calling this for the deputy position, though, is that correct?
Really not for me to say it should be the deputy, but.
So we need a deputy.
That's what we had discussed.
A deputy city attorney.
Yes.
We have succession planning.
Right.
Okay, so I'll be clear about that. Mr. Perkins, do you support posting it for a deputy city attorney?
Yes.
Yes, and I have an additional comment to make on that. I absolutely agree. You know, we need somebody continuing to help fill in gaps where the work is increasing and staff is short. But this could be a whole other discussion, so I won't dive too deeply into it. But we're letting an appointment of a certain department head drive the fact that we have work that still needs to be done and we need to bring on more staff. I think that needs to be examined department to department to department to department. I think we could have a whole discussion at a separate council meeting of where are there gaps in the work. And I'll tell you, I'll be short, but you know, one area where I see it every day, I think the most interaction I have is with the clerk's office. And the clerk's office is overwhelmingly understaffed, as well as I'm sure other departments throughout the city. So I agree with this wholeheartedly, with the comments that I think we need to have an examination of work and staffing in each of our departments and succession planning. And you know, I hope this conversation, this is a turning point where we actually can get into that conversation.
I think from our discussions with where we're headed, our visioning, this is very, it's on the minds of all of us, succession planning.
Right. I just want to make sure it escapes the minds and gets into the conversation.
I'd like to, I really want to finish going around.
So the answer is yes.
But perhaps in an August study session, we could discuss this, Mr. Surratt.
Not August, September.
All right, September. Okay,
We'll take a look.
Mr. Frazier?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. All right, sure.
I say yes, but I really want to make sure we're very extensive in our outreach and search for other candidates.
And I support that. So, we have, Mr. Surratt, we have 7 council members who support posting this position.
Brief, there are certain positions that are charter mandated, and the attorney is one of them, and the biggest, besides the city administrator, the biggest need to running a good city is to have a legal attorney. So those two can't shortchange that, right?
Well, I think that,
I mean, we know that, but I'm just saying, there are a lot of other departments that could use help. We may not be able to accommodate it.
I agree with that,
But
but
I agree with
we need to have that conversation.
Mr. Moss, that we have really put that meeting aside and have not really dealt with it. We have to look at all these departments, and our financing committee able to do it as well, but right now, you know, I mean, I see Jim in the same thing as I see Sue. They're just doing a lot more than they really can handle. I know that they won't admit it, but I'm telling you, it can't burn people out.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I said, the money situation is very important, as you know, but maybe we can start filling some holes.
Yeah.
At least gearing for it, find out where we're headed, and if we get
We have
lucky.
a lot of work to do in this regard, a lot of work.
okay, well, Mr. Surratt, we'll look forward to that conversation in September. Ms.
I
Short?
want to make it clear, I'm not just interested in a posting, but a real outreach and search for the best qualified deputies.
Right. You would agree to limit it within Michigan, just because otherwise you need to be a member of the Michigan Bar.
Yes,
But
practice very
but
good.
within the state,
Yes.
got it.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to add to that, Sue and I had this discussion when we were negotiating. Southfield has the reputation of being very closed when it comes to our legal department. We do not, the relationships we have with lawyers and law firms are like 20 and 30 years old. It's similar to what the conversation we had about our engineering contract. And so Sue did some research and she said, you know, Mayor, there's some validity to what you're saying. And so to Councilwoman Jordan's point, she has agreed that we need to post this and be open so that we can, and we need to look at the relationships we have with these people. We don't even have contracts, we just only call them. And some of the folks that we have relationships with isn't even practicing law, it's their firms.
Oh, it's right, people in their firm that come in, right,
Yeah.
right.
And so we have this long-term relationship with Joe Blow, and Joe Blow is the man, but now Joe Blow is not even showing up, there's someone in his firm.
Right,
Right.
right.
We're looking for someone with municipal experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, on the deputy, yeah, right.
All right, Mr. Mott, we have 10 minutes.
I won't even take 5 minutes. In the Economic Development Committee meeting that we had last week, some steps forward that we wanted to take, and we're diving into certain specific things that are pertaining to economic development, specifically with the city center and working with our planner. But one of the things that we wanted to do, aside from that, was have a round table with developers. And Shelley and I have talked about, you know, how do we identify people, mainly to have a dialogue, to hear things on council we don't hear because it happens outside of City Hall, to have an honest conversation about, you know, perceptions of developing in Southfield, perceptions of working with the city staff, perceptions of the reality of the market. And it was members of the committee that wanted to have this round table. The mayor sat in on this meeting and made the valid suggestion that I bring this meeting that we were looking to schedule back to full council, so the interests of, you know what we're doing. You know, we're not acting as a committee out of sync with the needs of the council. So I'm basically seeking a consensus from the rest of the council that our committee can continue our work and have this meeting with the full council knowing about it.
How do you pick these developers?
Well, Shelley and I were going to have a conversation this week. She had people who actually have come to her and have said, there are things that I'd love to bring to City Hall and that I'd love to talk about. So she has a list of people already. So really identifying those within city administration and extending the invite to have kind of a breakfast.
Developers who want tax abatement?
No, not necessarily. That was not brought up.
Staff, Shelley.
All right. Well, we'll make sure that a good representation is at the meeting.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else care to respond?
Yeah, actually, I think you need 2 meetings, 2 roundtables, one with the developers. I think you also need a meeting with the contractors, because the contractors are the ones that roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And
But
they
we
have
don't
more
hire the
contact working
contractors.
with the city staff, and it'd be interesting to find out what their perception is of working with the city of Southfield.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if the contractors are unhappy, they're gonna go someplace else where it's easier to work with.
That's a good suggestion.
What's the difference between a developer and a contractor?
What's the difference between a developer and a contractor? Well, the developer is, hires contractors.
That's right.
Yeah.
They gotta pull permits.
So why do we have to worry about that now?
If you interact with the
You don't have to,
building.
you don't have to.
Okay, I'm not worried.
Mayor Lawrence.
Just briefly, as you know, the discussion for bankruptcy for the city of Detroit, and it has been said that if Detroit goes into bankruptcy, it has an effect on the region. I would like to, and I talked to Don about this, is possibly bringing the Oakland County person in, because Brooks has been studying this and their staff, on the impact on our bonds and our finances, and that we bring that person in to talk to the council, at minimum to the finance committee, so that we actually have a handle on what is the effect, because I want to know, what is the effect it's going to have on our
Part of
city?
a lot of homework I talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brooks flew out the next day.
Yeah.
After
We
the
have,
announcement.
we have a meeting Friday on another aspect
Yeah.
of.
But I think the council should be made aware of it, so I had told Don that, for the finance committee, that at minimum, that we need to bring someone in and get us educated and ready, so that if and when it happens, that the impact it may have, we've been talking about bonds, is that gonna have an impact on us, so that when we're making financial decisions, we're doing the right thing.
Mr. Mayor.
I may as well make an announcement. The City of Detroit Council gave me a Spirit of Detroit Award last week, 2 weeks ago, in
Congratulations.
reference to my work with the veterans.
Oh, that's
Great,
They
congratulations.
gave me a beautiful, beautiful,
Did you bring it in?
no, it's in the car.
Why don't, is it in the car tonight?
Yeah.
Why don't you bring it in, we can present it at council,
Okay.
under the council portion of the agenda.
Okay.
All
Want to do
right?
it tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, it's in the car, bring it in. All right, we're gonna recess for 5 minutes and then reconvene in the council chamber.
See you.